it's great if you can build a business that a bigger company wish they had and they just want to buy, like when Facebook buys Instagram or Microsoft buys LinkedIn, or when LinkedIn bought Lynda. You basically, kind of like the whole teaching a big company how to suck eggs thing. You create that little thing that they really want or wish they had, and it's cheaper for them to just acquire it than to go out and try and compete with you. If you know who's going to buy your company when you start it, it will definitely change the way you make decisions. So the reason I want to know it as a business coach very early on, it will change the advice I give someone, whether they should do it. And one of the most obvious ones that comes up is, what do we call the thing? So it's rarer that you'll see a business that you're going to sell named in a personal brand. And this one comes up a lot. But as someone who's switched from a company brand to a personal brand, I can tell you there's some definite differences between the personal brand and the business brand. And it really, every decision you make has all these consequences. One of the big things that we noticed when we brought it back to a personal brand, it was kind of me saying, you know what, I don't think I could sell this business the way it is. I would have to make different decisions, and I'd have to take time to re-engineer this business to be in a saleable position. And it's not worth it versus me spending my time and energy growing other people's saleable businesses and getting paid that way. So there's a few points there. One is, just because you've made a choice here doesn't mean that you're excluded from participating in the upside. It's just that you're going to have to do it with multiple entities. And the other one is that for every decision you make, it's going to change things down the track. So one of the simple things that we noticed was, when we brought it back to one brand, we now had just one set of social accounts to manage. We had one prime product to focus on. So everything became simpler. For the team, it was kind of like this, relax. It's also, you get a lot more traction faster under a personal brand, and you have a defensible position in the market because there's only one you. So there's only one you. It's easy to be unique. And what we noticed is this podcast tripled, right? And then it maintained at least a double over previous, and it started ranking everywhere when we switched to a personal brand. So I feel it was much harder and slower to get traction as a business than as a personal brand, is one thing that I noticed. So that might factor into your decision-making process.
Can I share a couple of stories here, please?
Please.
So I have a friend. I won't name them just because I haven't asked them, but they had a personal brand business they sold, and it was like actually quite a difficult process. And there was two things that were very interesting in that. Is like, one, when he put the business up for sale, is that every offer he received got down round or reduced. Just they put in an offer for less because of the attachment to his brand. So they go, look, businesses like this normally sell for here, which for anyone on the audio, my hand is high, and then got a reduction of a 20% because of that. But then the other side of it, which I thought was really fascinating, was that they golden handcuffed him. So even once he sold the business, he had a 24-month term we had to work in the business to help them de-risk it. So he was trying to sell the business to get out, but then ended up actually becoming locked to it, and then as an employee of it. And he went through that process, and it was successful overall. But in hindsight, he probably said, well, I wouldn't have done it. I should have just gone the personal brand route in my case, because of all the effort I put into getting it saleable just ended up not being worth it.
Yeah, so I realized that I was there on the super fast business train. I'd been running it for a long time. And I realized that if one of the prime filters for selling a business is that it works without you, then it wasn't satisfying that at the time. And I felt like I could have migrated it, but it would have taken a while. Now, the other business model that I'm particularly fond of is my revenue share partnerships, where I'm partnering with other businesses and I help them grow their business. And quite a lot of them are actually built to sell. They're companies, they're business branded, and I can grow those businesses and participate in a sale event. So I can still get my cash flow from a personal brand, and I can also get a sale event from a business brand by having separate little pies, I suppose, separate little silos. So I think you can do both, but not with the same company, right? I was always building super fast business with an idea that I might sell it. But in reality, I was really running it more like a cash flow business, a high cash flow business. And where I would have a classic one for coaching businesses, for example, if you want to sell the business, you're going to start hiring sub coaches and you're going to start spending more on marketing that's not going to involve your personal podcast, et cetera. And I didn't want to do that. Now, on the flip side, I bet you there are personally branded businesses who do run a lot like a business that would sell. They reinvest in their branding. And I'm sure you handled a few of those in your media company, Charlie, where they keep reinvesting and still don't make huge margins, even though they're a personally branded company that might have cash flow. So they're just delaying the cash flow event to a bigger cash flow event when the business is a bigger size. So I guess my point here is it's not automatic that if you choose to have a business to sell versus a business for cash flow, that you'll get the sale or that you'll get the cash flow. Right? These things still take work.
Oh, wholeheartedly agree with that. I just, one of the things you mentioned there, which I think is a little bit fascinating as well for people, is that personal brands tend to do really well if you're making content. Overall, when I was in the media stuff, and I'm even in that pool still a little bit with our own podcast and here, undoubtedly people doing things connected to a personal brand for podcasting and YouTube channels do better. They really, really do. I think that is a huge advantage, and maybe one of the reasons you, if you are a creator and a content maker, you may consider going, well, I'm going to go the more cash flow route than building a business to sell, because of that brand entanglement. But there's so many clever ideas around that. Like you mentioned, like you can use your brand to grow other businesses that you can sell. You can also take that cash flow you're making in a business and invest it in other assets. So maybe you buy investment products or other things from that, or buy other businesses. There's a whole bunch of stuff you could do. But you just got to think about it a little bit more creatively. I have rubbed up against this a few times, and I'm sure you've seen this far more than I. The one that concerns me is when someone spent like a long time building a personal brand and then all of a sudden they just want to sell it. Like they hadn't planned or thought out any other ideas or strategies for them to end up being well off along the way.
Hey, fellow business owner, if this topic and value-packed short video has resonated with you at all, and you want to dive deeper into being a full stack business owner, check out the full episode by clicking the link on your screen or in the description right now.